It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Athletes Unlimited lacrosse professional player, Lindsey Ronbeck. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to play professional lacrosse?
So I think, when I started lacrosse and then going throughout high school and college, professional lacrosse wasn't really a big thing when I was in high school. It was kind of just starting out. And I don't think it was taken very seriously. But then throughout my time at college, the professional league started to gain a lot of recognition and a lot of talk around them. So after college, I knew, I wanted to stay in lacrosse and not only coaching, but also playing. And I knew that I really wanted to continue to play, and that was the next best opportunity for me. Mainly because the USA women's team is so tight knit, and it's hard to infiltrate that sometimes. So I knew I had a better chance of playing professionally. That was a goal of mine entering my senior year. So I knew I had to make my name big enough in my senior year to get some recognition from them, to have them draft me and get me onto the professional world.
Can you talk about, of course, what was it like playing college lacrosse for Florida Gators?
It was an incredible experience. I say it all the time. I would give an arm and a leg to get back to campus and get back on the team, and to get back in those facilities, but I always say this, even without lacrosse, I would still go to the University of Florida. Their facilities in general, their campus is beautiful. I love the warm weather. You can't go wrong with the warm weather. But playing for the Florida Gators, it was just such an honor. And being able to step out onto the field with my best friends every single day and play the sport that I love was just a real big dream come true for me.
What was it like playing in the SEC with the Florida Gators and putting on the blue Florida Gators jersey?
So, obviously the SEC is like huge with football. So we had that aspect, which was really awesome, get those big SEC football games. Um, but, lacrosse was never a part of the SEC. So, but it was still really special to be able to put on like a Florida jersey. And I still have my jersey. I got it for senior day. We got it framed. And just looking at that, like, it brings me back. I always say this, like, Florida's like home to me. I coached a camp, the Florida camp this summer, and my mom was like, how is it being back at the facilities and walking around the field and being back there? I'm like, that's home for me. So being able to represent the university in the best way that I possibly could was just an honor in itself.
What are some of your accomplishments that you achieved at Florida?
Oh my goodness. So freshman year, I was NCAA Rookie of the Year. And then I was also the Big East Freshman of the Year. And then my sophomore year, I got Big East Tournament MVP, Big East First Team, IWLCA Second Team All American. And then I'm sure I'm missing a few. And then my junior year, I got IWLCA First Team All American, Big East First Team, Big East Tournament MVP, broke some Big East records. And then my senior year, we switched to the AAC. So I got AAC Attacker of the Year, AAC Tournament MVP, AAC First Team, IWLCA All American First Team. And I hold most goals in a season, most points in a season, and most goals in a game at Florida. I hold those 3 records,
That's so
which
amazing
is pretty exciting.
that you hold those 3 records. What is it like to obviously hold them and see the players that are coming into Florida try to obviously break your records?
Well, I mean, I think I was in that position that they're in right now, coming in and looking to break records. But I never think about stats. And I don't think about them now more than ever, being a coach and being a professional player, um, because I really truly have the mindset that every single person on the team is important. And yes, there could be someone that has, a 5-goal, 3-assist game. Um, but they wouldn't have been able to get those opportunities without the goalie coming up with a big save or the defense coming up with a big stop. And I had that mentality in college, and I am definitely just someone that takes it play by play. And if I score or I get an assist, that's awesome. Um, but also, if I go set a pick and someone scores, I don't get that stat, but it's still awesome and I'm still just excited. So for me, all throughout college, I never was like, I want to break this record. But senior year, I had 8 goals in 2 different games, and the record was 8 goals. And so a few times I'm like, am I ever going to break this record? Like, I've gotten 8 goals twice this season. Like, am I able to get another 8-goal game and then put another one in the back of the net, knowing that I'm breaking the record? And luckily I did, and I got it on my senior day, which was also my birthday. So it was a very special day for me, breaking that record, celebrating out in the field with the other seniors, and then obviously celebrating my birthday. So that whole weekend was just incredible. But I think a lot of girls come in and, they have this goal like, okay, I want to be a record holder and all this stuff. But, you can't just say it. You have to actually put in the work, and you have to, kind of grind when no one's watching, and really be honest with yourself of the things that you're not great at, so that way you can fix it. So that way there's just another opportunity for you to, get those goals, get those assists, whatever it is, whatever record you want to break. So for me, I just, like I said, it was never like in my mind, but that one record was in my mind my senior year.
Of course, getting drafted into the WPLL.
So it was really, really incredible. And looking at the team, a lot of the girls that on the fight the team that I was drafted into, they were girls that I had looked up to for so long. Taylor Cummings, Kayla Trainer, all those girls, even Sam Apuzzo, she's my age, but the things that she did in college, and we were in college at the same time, were absolutely incredible. So they were a lot of girls that I looked up to and I aspired to be. So getting drafted to that team was a little nerve-wracking, knowing that I was going to be stepping out onto the field with some of my lacrosse idols and some girls that I had posted up on my wall in high school, ripping out pages from lacrosse magazines. But, I just knew that, me getting drafted to that team means that I have something to bring to the table, and that, the coaches that drafted me were able to see my potential and see how I could work with them. So, that took a little bit of pressure off. But, it's funny going on, like thinking back to that first game playing with them, I was so nervous. And, Kayla Trainer came up to me, and it was like in the middle of the game, and I had took a shot and I hit the pipe or whatever. And she was like, keep shooting. That was an awesome dodge. That was an awesome shot. Like, keep shooting. And then once she said that, I was like, okay, like, I'm calm now. I can do this. So it was really incredible. And then just playing with them, realizing that these girls, the top of the top, they believe, they have the same mentality as me, in a sense where, like, no one's unimportant on a team. Everyone has a role. And when they, especially when like a girl like Kayla Trainer comes up to you and like tells you to keep shooting, that she appreciates what you do out on the field, and that she knows that you can put the ball in the back of the net and you can, contribute to the team. So something that I really, admire about all those girls that I played with is they don't make anyone feel small, and they appreciate, the really, really little things that you do all over the field. And, I think that made it easier going into Athletes Unlimited this summer.
What was it like putting on your first professional jersey for lacrosse with the New York Flight?
It was really incredible. We kind of talked about how it was not always a dream of mine, but it was definitely something when, the recognition of the women's professional leagues started coming about, is something that I aspired to do. So getting to that point and being able to say that I made it to the next step, which is, for most people, the final step, and making it professionally was just really cool. And being able to, say that I'm a professional athlete is something that I don't think many women's lacrosse players ever thought that you would ever be able to say. There was always Team USA, but saying that you're getting legitimately paid to play lacrosse is a really cool thing. And like I said, just knowing that it was kind of like I made it.
What was it like, obviously, balancing being a professional lacrosse player and also being a coach as you were first a head coach at Liberty?
Yeah, so I was a head coach at Liberty in my time in college, and that was more of a summer job, coaching club. And I had always known that I wanted to go into college coaching. And then being a professional player while coaching, it actually made it a little bit easier because I was around the game so much and I was watching so much lacrosse, whether that was just like staying in the know about which teams are beating which teams and clipping film and all that stuff. So I was able to keep my lacrosse IQ up pretty well with that part. Um, and then, just seeing the girls like come out every day and practice and go as hard as they can. It actually really inspired me to stay after. And I was like, okay, now it's my time to, put in the work. So it makes it a little bit easier to find that motivation when you're surrounded by lacrosse all day. And you see the girls that you coach like work hard for you and put in that extra work. So for me, it made it a little bit easier, but I can't imagine, those who are in an office, all day and then having to go out and go shoot or do wall ball or do conditioning. For me, it's readily available. So it wasn't too difficult.
What has it been like coaching, of course, Richmond and also being a professional athlete for Athletes Unlimited?
So it's been awesome. Another Athletes Unlimited athlete, Katie Glynn, is the other assistant coach. She played goalie this summer. So it's really nice having a goalie that I can shoot on now. I wasn't able to get that in the past. So we have been pretty much ever since we got hired, we've been going out to the field and shooting. And what's really special about that is that once you kind of make it to that level and you're secure in yourself and you're able to kind of bounce things off people that you're like Katie and I are able to bounce things off of each other. So if I'm making a shot, she's like, hey, can you do that again? And if I make it in again, she's like, what are you seeing? And I'm like, well, you're giving me too much on this side. And then if on the flip side, if she saves one of my shots, she's like, oh, well, you didn't fake me, or, oh, like you were leaving your stick out too much. So it's really nice to have someone like that, sharing an office with and being able to go out there and really work on the things that I didn't do so well this summer. But then on top of that, being a coach at Richmond, it's just the same exact thing. I'm surrounded by lacrosse all day, and again, seeing these girls like come out every day and like work hard, it definitely makes me miss college lacrosse. I'm definitely slightly jealous of them, but Katie and I joke about it all the time that we're kind of back in college because we work all day, we go out to the field, do a little conditioning, do a little shooting, and then we go lift. So it's like kind of we're on the college schedule again, which is funny. But it's really incredible that I'm able to be surrounded by lacrosse all day, have someone that I can go out and get better with, and we can both get better. And then on top of that, just having all the resources that Richmond is offering.
Of course, with you being a professional athlete and obviously coach at Richmond, how has that helped you when obviously you can take those experience from being a professional athlete to help them, your future players?
Yeah, so I was talking about it with Ann Harrington, our boss, and I was saying to her, this whole entire summer I was surrounded by just incredible, not only players and coaches, but people. So I tried to stay engaged as much as I could and flip between that, the athlete mentality and the coach mentality, and then the student mentality. So, the athlete mentality was during practices, having that, okay, I'm an athlete, like we're running through the X's and O's, I'm involved. And then the coach mentality was, watching the games, and really kind of like scouting the other teams, seeing what their defense does, seeing, some holes in the defense, seeing what their goalies' habits are. And then just the student of asking questions, like, hey, my team's having a little bit of trouble with this. Has your team ever experienced it? And what have you done to, help them get past this? So I kind of had three roles there in my mind, throughout this summer. And, for me, I was just, anytime another coach had spoken, I was ears on, like listening, trying to retain as much information as I could. So that way I could bring those experiences to wherever I was coaching.
What was it like for you to get drafted to Athletes Unlimited and sign with them?
It was incredible. I think some of us were a little skeptical about it at first, just because of the amount of changes that were happening between the two leagues. So, as I'm sure this, from interviewing the other girls, but you're on different teams every week, you practice every day, you play 3 games a weekend, and then you get redrafted. So I think for us, we were like, oh gosh, like how are we gonna handle this, like physically, mentally, like what's happening? But then once I got there, and once the things started rolling, the first week was definitely, there were a lot of questions going on, but the John and Jonathan at Athletes Unlimited were awesome about answering them. Like the whole support staff was absolutely incredible. So that first week was just a lot of like uncertainty, and then after that first week we all got into a routine, and it was just like, okay, this is what professional lacrosse is now for women's, and it was so exciting. I loved the shortened quarters and the quicker pace of the game. I did love the fact that there was no shooting space or 3-second calls. I think it forced us to be, a little bit more creative. And then that last part of just like kind of being redrafted, it wasn't just the lacrosse piece that I loved and appreciated so much. It was the relationship buildings, the relationships that I built, throughout the 5 weeks that I was there. I created some of the best friends. I mean, I'm working with one of them now, and I don't know if that would have happened if we weren't in that experience together. So for me, it wasn't just like the lacrosse aspect, it was everything else around it. Being a professional athlete, being treated like one, having our games aired every weekend on live TV, having Joe Beninati announce our games, like all of it was just so incredible. And I think Athletes Unlimited did such an incredible job of like making women's professional lacrosse 100% legitimate.
How can you talk about some of the similarities and differences between obviously the WPLL that you came from and obviously Athletes Unlimited?
Yeah, so some similarities were that, it's a shortened field. There are less players on the field. So you have 3 attackers, 3 middies, 3 defenders, and then a goalie. So similar to men's. And then I think the biggest differences are the actual game. There's no shooting space in Athletes Unlimited. There's no 3 seconds in Athletes Unlimited. They don't call as many fouls. What else? There is a shot clock difference. Actually, no, the shot clock is the same. I'm pretty sure they were both 60 and 60. There are now 4 quarters. TV timeouts. I feel like that's a huge difference. And then the last piece is staying in one venue the whole time rather than traveling from different place every weekend. So for the WPLL, they usually tried to match up our games with whatever tournaments were going on. So that way the, young players can come watch us. Whereas Athletes Unlimited, they just held us in the Maryland Soccerplex in Gaithersburg, Maryland for 5 weeks. It's a beautiful facility, amazing fields. They had a lot of resources for us, but I think that was kind of a bonus because we were able to, hang out with everyone on our off time and really build those relationships. And then we were also able to practice every day, which I think makes a huge difference when you look back at the WPLL games and when you look at the Athletes Unlimited games, is those like practices every day. So we were truly on like a college schedule, which was pretty cool.
What was it like going from the WPL to obviously Athletes Unlimited and obviously having that routine of, okay, I'm on one team with obviously the WPL, and now with Athletes Unlimited, I can be drafted to different teams each week?
Yeah, so I wasn't really sure how that one was going to go. But we all became so close. There was 58 of us by the end of the 5 weeks. So we all became super close. So when you got redrafted to a team, it wasn't like, oh, I have no idea who these girls are. I have to make new friends. By the end of week 1, we were all super close and hanging out with each other in our spare time. So, it didn't really feel like you were on different teams every week, even though you were, and you were playing against different people. And, you had to strategize of who likes to do what and who likes to go where. But I think our lacrosse IQ is so high that, it didn't take much for us to kind of switch that gear and make the changes that we needed to make. And then the WPL, I love a good consistent team. That's what lacrosse usually is. But, I think I might like the redrafting a little bit more.
Of course, in the Athletes Unlimited, and y'all have other jobs like other people like Sammy Joe, who obviously went to Carolina and stuff like that, and obviously assistant coaches like that. What is that like to obviously play with other assistant coaches in the same league?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, it was really cool to be able to like learn from them in a sense. I'm still a very young coach and I still have a lot of learning to do, and I'll be the first one to admit that. But it's really cool being able to think about it in a way that we're all athletes rather than, oh, this is another coach's idea. The way we bring our ideas to the table is just, as if we're strategizing, with our teammates. But it's really incredible to kind of hear different people's ideas and different people's strategies on, whether that's we're playing against a man-to-man defense or a zone defense, or, if they're if another team's like very 1v1 driven, or if they like to feed it in a lot. So and kind of breaking down those like different players of, what their habits are, what their consistencies are, and trying to make up a game plan around it. But I mean, I loved playing with other coaches because I was able to learn about different ideas and kind of steal some and put them in my back pocket.
What are some of your game day routines and rituals like?
Okay, so the night before every game, I watch Miracle movie, and that's every game. So I actually mentioned that to Katie the other day, and she was like, "Wait, we had 3 games every weekend." And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "So you watched Miracle 3 times every weekend?" I said, "Yes." And then I have to put on my left sock, left shoe, right shoe. Um, if I don't have a great game, I have to retape my stick. But if I'm having a good practice leading up to the game, then I just leave it be. Um, and then I think that's about it. I had a lot more in college than I do now. I think it's usually because like when you're in college, you're like, oh, I have to do this or else we're gonna lose. Whereas like when you get past, it's like, no, me retaping my stick wasn't the reason why we won.
Of course, with your game day routines and rituals, do you have any as a coach leading up to obviously game day? as a coach?
That's a good question. I don't think I've found a ritual yet. I do have to wear the same socks though every game. But I don't really feel like that's a ritual. I think it's just because they're my most comfortable pair of socks.
Who are some players that you look up to in the professional lacrosse world?
I think the biggest one is Kayla Trainer. I've looked up to her for as long as I can remember. She plays low attack and she's just so incredible. Even playing against her, me just watching her do what she does, I'm like, you can't even be mad about it. I mean, she's a walking highlight reel. She's awesome. But it's not just, who she is as a player, it's who she is as a person and it's what she stands for. And like I said earlier, she's someone that doesn't make you feel small. She believes that every person on the field has a role and that their role is just as important, as the person that's putting the ball in the back of the net, as the goalie that's making the big time save. So, just who she is as a person all around. And then on top of that, her being just such an incredible player is, something I've always aspired to be. But, Kayla Trainer she's untouchable right now. And she just keeps getting better. So
What advice would you give future college athletes looking to play college lacrosse?
so I think the biggest thing is, it's not just about where you're going to play lacrosse. It's about where you're going to school, right? And I think a lot of young players get really caught up in, oh, like this school has like such big lacrosse. But the question that I always ask recruits anytime I meet them to ask themselves is, can you see yourself here without lacrosse? God forbid something happens. I mean, we see it all the time, whether it's an ACL injury, whether it's, something with mental health, whether it's, you're not getting the playing time that you thought that you were going to get, whatever it is, are you still going to be happy at the school that you're attending without lacrosse as a factor? So for me, during like my recruiting process, walking around the schools on my tours, I really just took lacrosse out of it. And I kind of walked around. I was like, can I see myself here, on an off day? I think that's the best way to look at it. On an off day, can I see myself here? And when I'm not wearing, whatever school's lacrosse t-shirt, when I'm just in normal clothes, can I see myself here? And so I think that's the biggest advice that I would give to young players is, like, yeah, of course, everyone has, hopes and dreams, and I did as well, but, you know, you don't want to like sacrifice all of that for not being happy where you are. So if that means you have to, take a step down or maybe let go of a dream that you want, then maybe sometimes that has to happen. But, I think a lot of girls end up, now that COVID's over and they're able to walk around campus, I think a lot of girls are able to ask themselves that and actually put themselves in, a regular student's shoe and see if they really would see themselves going here. And then the other aspect to that is, if you're like me who dreamed of playing in the national championship and wanting to make a name for themselves, and, I think the biggest thing is consistently working hard, and putting in the work when no one's watching. I always had the mentality that, okay, great, I had a great day at practice, but like this person probably had a better day. So what did I do wrong and how can I work on that? So that way next time, maybe I don't do it as wrong because we don't fix our mistakes after the first try every time. But what can I do to kind of work through that, mistake? And that's the kind of mentality I had. And even after I committed, now that there's a recruiting age and everything, so it's a little bit easier, but I committed sophomore year, the fall of sophomore year. And so for the next 2.5 years, I had to continue to get better. I couldn't have the mindset of, oh, I'm committed now, I can take a break. No, it was, oh, I'm committed now. What can I do in these 2.5 years to make sure that I'm able to step on the field as a freshman? So there's two sides of it. There's one side of making sure you're actually happy where you are and the school that you're attending, but then there's that other side of making sure that even after you commit or while you're still going through the process, making sure you're really working hard and putting in that off time. And then the last piece is just everyone's process is different. Everyone's timeline is different. Everyone wants different things. So try not to compare your process and your recruiting process to anyone else's.
That's wonderful advice. What advice would you give professional athletes looking to get into playing professionally lacrosse?
I think the biggest thing is I think it's a mentality piece a little bit more than your actual athletic skill. You know, Obviously, if you're in college, to really work hard to make a name for yourself, without sacrificing the team, but also, communicating to your coaches like, hey, I want to play professional lacrosse. Is there a way you can get my name out there? Is there a way that you can kind of plug my name a little bit to, whoever works with Athletes Unlimited or whatever it is. And then when you step out onto that field, everyone watches, NCAA lacrosse. So when you step onto that field, make sure you're doing all the right things. Obviously, there are going to be mistakes. I say this all the time. I'm like, even Kayla Trainer makes mistakes sometimes, but try not to dwell on those mistakes. And then that last piece is when if you do get to that professional status, is just make sure that you're really going with the flow and riding the wave. And that's something that I learned over those 5 weeks, is that, like I said, you're not going to have a great weekend every weekend, but when you do have that great weekend, make sure that you're riding that wave and you're keeping that high, if that makes sense.
That's wonderful advice. What advice would you give professional athletes that are balancing obviously being professional lacrosse players and also college coaches?
I think the biggest piece of advice is, I think the biggest thing is that we still represent Athletes Unlimited. It's an all year round thing that, when we're in those 5 weeks, of course, we represent Athletes Unlimited. We're putting on the jersey every weekend, we're wearing the gear every day, but now that we're outside of it and we're back in our regular jobs, that we still represent it, especially to our players, so kind of making sure that your players know that you're still putting in that work and you're still chasing your dreams and wanting to get better and aspiring to be better. So I think that's the biggest piece of advice I would give, is that, we still represent Athletes Unlimited, even though we're not in season. So make sure you're working hard, so that way when we do come back next summer, we can all be better than what we were.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
Yes. So my personal Instagram is at Lindsey Ronbeck. And then I have a fitness Instagram account called at Get Fitty with Winnie.
Thank you again, Lindsey Ronbeck, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with Athletes Unlimited.
Thank you so much.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Lindsey Ronbeck, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.